Paul Hewitt here. You know, who we are and what we're about has a lot to do with the influences in our life, the people who have influenced us. And I, like everyone, have had many, many influences. And I just want to cite, very few, just three or four of them here. I know when I was in high school, there was a counselor, Edward Gibbs, high school counselor, and he advised me to not take any academic subjects because I wouldn't need to, because he was aware of my talent for art. I was the guy that would paint the posters for the dances, and make the cartoons and the yearbook and that kind of thing. And so he said I wouldn't have to take academic courses, so I took his advice and I didn't. And so in high school I took no physics, no science. I did take mathematics for boys in the freshman year, and there was a general science course, and I thought it was wonderful. But that's about it for that. And another one of my influences was Kenny Isaacs. Kenny Isaacs was a local boxing hero. And I was one of these kids that was getting beat up all the time by bullies. I wasn't much of a physical specimen. And Kenny Isaacs he was the fighter of fighters. Everyone admired that guy. I remember going over to Lynn and watching him fight sometimes. I was about maybe 14 years old, 13, 14, and saying, wow, this guy's so great. I wish I could be in his corner, be sort of the kid that comes up with a water bucket, and helps him. This is a gladiator. No one beat him up. But anyway, Kenny Isaacs was a big influence because, to make a long story short, 3 years later, Kenny Isaacs was in my corner. And a fellow lived next door to me, Eddie McCarthy, who was a professional fighter, 135-pound, lightweight, very good guy. And he took me under his wing. But then he went off to the Korean War, and just before he did that, he turned me over to local boxing hero Kenny Isaacs. And he told Kenny, take young Paul here under your wing. He's my protege. Kenny did that. And I was going to retire as soon as I won the flyweight championship of North America. But I never got that far. I got up to the silver medal for the AAU in New England at the age of 17. And that was about it. After that, in the follow-up fight, getting ready for the Nationals, I got knocked out at the end of my career. Another big influence on my life was Burl Gray, a sign painter I met back in the late 50s. Burl was painting in Miami, and I was assigned to paint with him. No one else would paint with him because there was a rumor going around about him that he was, one of them. He was accused of being, and I found out for myself that old Burl was an intellectual. And intellectuals didn't cut it in the sign painting circuit. Anyway, Burl Gray influenced me a lot. He's the one that lit my fire to get into science. And many of the ideas I had about things were Burl sort of demolished. He was a very philosophical type, and he was a non-theist. And he convinced me that things were so much simpler if you took a more scientific view of the world. And there's so much that we're taught to believe, or that we come to believe, that simply isn't true. And how does one determine what's true or not? Do you find out when you're an old person ready to die that everything you've been doing is just junk? Well, we each need a knowledge filter, sort of, to tell the difference between what's true and what isn't true. And Burl convinced me that the best knowledge filter ever invented is science. And so I got into science. I went to school, went to college, Lowell Tech in Massachusetts, after doing a year of prep school, because I didn't take the recommended courses in high school. Had to do this, make up the deficiencies. So Burl was a big influence of mine. And then I went through and I got a physics degree. And while getting that physics degree, I was very, very difficult for me. But there was a book I read when I was in graduate school in the summertime. It was wonderful. It was a book called Basic Physics by Ken Ford. And Ken Ford became my mentor, another big influence on me. And Ken Ford's book, awesome. He told it like it is. Ken Ford's a giant himself. He doesn't have a Nobel Prize, but his friends do. He's one of those type guys. He was the exec officer of the American Institute of Physics. And I'm proud to say now, I'm very proud of him to have him for a personal friend. So he was a great influence on me. And now I find myself, my greatest satisfaction is to realize that I myself am an influence for other people. I'm sort of a Kenny Isaacs or a Burl Gray or a Ken Ford to many students, and This many is with a capital M, thanks to the efforts of my friend Marshall Ellenstein, who's put together these videotapes and these DVDs that spread my lectures from the classroom into the classrooms of many people. And so it's wonderful being that role model for other teachers and students. And if whatever I can do to be a Burl Gray to other people, to let them see that perhaps a very good foundation for, hey, what's going on in the world certainly is science. So let's hear it for physics. Physics first. It's a wonderful way to look at the world. It makes sense out of what ordinarily might be just too complex to understand. Physics, I love it. I hope you do too.